be available later on our DTL YouTube playlist. So if you have a colleague or you want to come back to parts of the meeting, you will be able to review that, and it will be sent out in an email. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple of our opening slides. My manager, Dr. Rob Dietrich, is also here. He's going to say a few words in a second. I do want to go over Webex. I think we have a few people joining us today who it's their first meetup, and so we're excited to welcome them. Webex is our platform that we're using for these meetings, and at the bottom of your screen, you should have a toolbar where you can mute and unmute. You're welcome to share your video as well. I love the sense of community and getting to see some folks as we've all adapted to this virtual world. Hopefully there'll be a return to normalcy soon. But for right now, if you feel comfortable turning on your screen, love to say hello and see you all. We do have closed captions available. So in the lower left corner of your Webex screen, you should have a little robot, and then next to it, next to the little robot icon, a CC icon where you can turn on closed captions that appear. And with today, we also have the Canvas team. So I will be sure to let them introduce themselves in a minute. We're going to go ahead and go over our agenda for today. So we're going to have some updates from DPI as well as updates from the home base team that Dr. Dietrich is going to go over. And then we're going to have Canvas updates from the Canvas team. We're going to have some time for breakout rooms. Those were really popular last time in February when we had our last home base meetup. And then we're going to be diving into summer school. And we will have an optional part at the end of the meeting today with anyone who wants to stay and kind of dig in to summer school a little bit more technical. You're welcome to do that. Or if your district is not planning on Canvas for summer school, then it may not pertain to you and you're free to leave. So I will go ahead and put our slide deck link and the sign-in link in the chat again, in case anybody who's just jumping in wants to go ahead and get those links, they can.
Pam?
Yes.
Could you also put that in the Q&A? I have to go in using an iPad, and for some reason there's no chat option with Webex and on the iPad, but I do have Q&A.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Let me see if I can find Q&A. Everything looks a little different when you're sharing a screen. So I might have to rely on Cami or John. Would you be able to see if you can put the slide deck links in the Q&A?
Yep, I got you.
All right, great. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to get started with a few of our updates. We do have our Padlet back channel that you are welcome to use throughout the meeting. If you have questions, we're going to stop at kind of predetermined times to check the Padlet. So if you have questions or things you want to share and talk about, because this is your time, please make sure to check the Padlet. And John, if you could put the Padlet link in the Q&A as well, in case anyone can't see chat but can see Q&A, that would be fabulous. All right, so we do have an opening slide deck for our opening slides and updates from Dr. Dietrich. So I'm just going to go ahead and get this pulled up and then pass it over to him.
Thank you, Pam. I tell you, I always like Pam's energy and enthusiasm when she does a home-based meetup, and all her gifs and images that she puts in, like a squirrel surfing, is always fun to watch. I do want to thank everyone for being here to our virtual session for Canvas today. I do believe these are important meetings. You will see there that we have the opening slides here, that those links have been shared. Pam has gone over that. These are the most important meetings that we have for all the reasons that are listed on this slide. There's nothing more important to us than getting your feedback and making sure we're in touch with everything we need to do for you. So these meetings are very important, and we appreciate you being here today. Next slide, please. We have one more after today, which is Go Open. I encourage all of you. I know we wear many hats. Those of you who wear the Go Open hat, please make sure you wear it today in order to get that wonderful information that Pam will share with you tomorrow. Next slide, please. Now, here is the new slide for this home-based meetup. And if you will notice, there are good things happening next year. The number one thing is we're going to get back out to visiting you guys on the road, being a part and interacting with you face to face. Thank goodness. It's like a sign of normalcy and returning back to what the good old days were. So you see we have a July session that's virtual where we'll give you updates from the summer. We have a February virtual. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. One of the things that I found out when I was hired is that I believe 2 years ago, they ended up doing the February home-based meetup one day from a hotel room because they couldn't get out because of weather. So we decided that it was just a good idea to do that one virtually with all the things that happened in February from a weather standpoint. But September, November, and May, we are planning on going out and seeing you guys again, and we are very excited about it. So please make sure that you have these dates written down and that you are ready to come see us when we hit the road again. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. And there are all the slide decks that we have done this week. By now, you can see them all. These should be very beneficial to you to go back and look, as well as we will have the recordings ready for you usually by Friday when we put out our weekly message. Next slide, please. And there is all our hashtags, call signs, Facebook, whatever you want to call our social media area, and all those new words that everybody's coming up with on a daily basis. Please remember our Did You Know series on Wednesday, where we try to inform you of everything going on, as well as other posts we have. Please like us. Make sure you're just staying up to date with everything home base. Next slide, please. And this is our wonderful team. I can't tell you enough what a pleasure it has been to work here and watch how great these folks work to make sure you guys are served well. A great example is, Pam needed some help today and Cammie and John jumped right on it. So we're just glad to be here helping you, and please let us know what we can do for you. And I'm going to turn it back to Pam. Thank you, Pam. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dietrich. We appreciate your leadership and being here for us to help guide the ship. All right, so I do want to show you the Padlet if you haven't had a chance yet to go on to it. Please feel free anytime you have a question, you have something you want to discuss, because we will have some time, as Dr. Dietrich shared. This is a meeting for you as Canvas admins, whether you're from a traditional public school, charter school. We want you to feel like this is your meeting and your space to collaborate. So please feel free to put things on our parking lot. You can just click on the little plus icons underneath any one of these columns to add a new sticky note. So if you have something to share as a success, we would also love to kind of feature that. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds right now to put something up here, whether it's a question you have, whether it's something you want to talk about today, whether it's a success you want to share. And please take the time to go ahead and add something to the Padlet. So we'll give everyone just 1 minute. And Sabrina, I'm putting the slide deck link back in the chat again. So. And please note that on the Padlet, as folks are adding to it, if you refresh your screen, you see the ability to add comments, which we will do in the background and adding some resources or answers. You can also add comments of your own if you want to comment on what someone else is asking. And then you can also heart or like their response as well. So feel free to do that. So I do want to just share our successes here that we see. I see we have 2, and I just want to highlight and celebrate those because this is our last meetup for this school year. So I think it's really important, especially in this challenging year, to recognize and reflect on what things have gone well, despite every challenge and obstacle and boulder that has been thrown in your path. I see that we have been building capacity, that we've been creating trainings and schedule several sessions for site tech leaders, go over successful setup each year. So that's great. That sounds like a resource that is going to be reused from year to year, which is awesome. I love it when I build things that I can continue to use from year to year. And I don't know if anyone wanted to come on off mute that shared this one, if you want to talk a little bit just for a few seconds about it, or if you want to be shy, it's okay too.
That's me.
Okay.
Sometimes I think probably all of us can relate to beginning of the year, semester, and anytime there's a report card and people haven't set up their thing to sync correctly, they suddenly go into panic mode, and then all you do is troubleshoot for 3 or 4 days and send help emails to Ashley when you don't understand. But what I wanted to do was start building capacity at the site for me to coordinate as a tech leader. So I've built out a training and I've scheduled it. It's got already almost a third of them signed up within a day, in order to just come and help be able to hold meetings at those times to just, okay, if you do these several steps, you're not going to have any problems or have to backtrack. And then some of the most basic troubleshooting things, like when their thing doesn't sync, the 3 things to check, and show them the error dictionary. I've also built out a student experience. So before teachers, while they're learning to transition to Canvas, if they want to go through it and see what it looks like from a student perspective. So I dreamt up the idea of what would have happened if Hogwarts had to go virtual. And so it's this big multifaceted Hogwarts virtual school. So I kept it agnostic from a subject, because that turns math teachers off if it's English and vice versa, and blah, blah, blah. And so it's kind of a fun way of them to see lots of the features from a 15, 20-minute student experience. So just trying to build ability for people to help and then see and get started with Canvas and have site level help. So take some load off of the help queue.
Absolutely, Dave. That sounds like that's going to be very helpful for future. So thank you for sharing. Canvas PD. Anyone want to share that all their school has successfully trained all their staff? We can give a virtual high five.
Hey, that's me. My name is Emily Reagan. I work at Clover Garden Schools, and over the summer and throughout this entire year, we are a K-12 charter school, and we have successfully trained all of our teachers on Canvas, and we'll continue to use it next year in the K-12 world. I'm super excited about the elementary update for that as well. And just like the guy that spoke before, we have a Canvas staff course that has all the help videos that we could possibly need. So it's definitely no more panic button.
That's wonderful. I think we were all pressing the panic button rapid fire last year. So anything we can do to keep that from going, I love it. Thank you for sharing. All right, who built a PD library? Anyone want to share?
That was us. This is Casey in Union County.
Oh, yes.
And we have built not just around Canvas, but other things. And kind of the reason I think it's funny is we probably would have said that was impossible prior to COVID shutdown, and it would have taken us, we would have timelined what we built in a year to take 3 years. And our team came together and built a whole bunch of stuff that's going to benefit us for a long time. So I think that's worth celebrating.
Absolutely, yeah. So you know, I think we all were working 100 hours a week there for a long time. And so it's great to look back and see what we accomplished and see how we kept learning going, right? So the buildings may have been closed, but our kiddos were working hard and our teachers were doing incredible things, and we were doing incredible things at the central office level to support them as well. So definitely great stories to share. Thank you for sharing. Please feel free to come back to the Padlet. We will kind of take a pause in between each of our sections of the agenda to come back to the Padlet to look at for topics or questions. So feel free to come back to that link. I will put it in the chat one more time. Well, let's be honest, I'll probably put it in the chat 5 more times at least, but one more time for right now. All right, so going back to our slide deck, just keep a note that the flip-flops link there is at the top of pretty much every slide. So you can always get back to the Padlet by just clicking on the link next to the flip-flops, because I've got summer on my brain. I do want to point out our Canvas course. So we do have a course at the state level to support Canvas admins. This is where recordings and slide decks from the meetups, I post them there as an additional place to kind of come back and look for it. Earlier in the year when we were looking at Canvas Studio, I added all those notes there. I also add the notes that the Canvas team sends out from the monthly statewide calls. So I'm kind of trying to keep one place repository, and then there's also a discussion board up there where you can post questions and chat. So for those of you, especially if this is your first meetup, woohoo, I do want to go ahead and put that link in the chat. So this is for the Canvas admin workforce. And that is a self-enrollment link. So when you click on it, it should prompt you to log into the NCI Cloud if you haven't done that yet. And then it'll ask you to enroll in the course. And if you get a funky error message, just email me and I'll be happy to add you. Sometimes due to payroll and how things are coded, accounts don't always get created like they should, as I'm sure you are all well aware of. And so I will take 2 seconds to create an account for you. So I know that we are all waiting patiently, maybe not so patiently, for an announcement about Canvas for next year and pricing and contract details and all of those things. So please don't stick a fork in me too hard, but I can't share it yet. There are, lots of legal and, business things going on that are outside of my control. But as soon as we have permission to shout it from the rooftops, we will be shouting it from the rooftops, right, Lauren? We will be making sure it goes out everywhere. So please know we're very close. We think folks will be happy with what is in the details, but we can't share it just yet. I'm sorry. All right, so an update about PRC 166. So many public school units received funding from PRC 166 for Canvas. Please note that this funding has to be expended by September 20, 2021. It was part of the CARES Act funding. So we've had CARES, we've had, and now we have ESSER 1 and 2, and we had CARS 2. So, this was CARES Act was the first round, so it has the first due date that the funds have to be expended by. So if your district has PRC 166, you can go ahead and submit a budget request in the BAS system. And what that does is it just simply moves the money from DPI to your account. And then you'll have it available to spend once we do have the contract details out for next year, right? So if you haven't made that budget request yet, I will be sending out another round of emails to those who have this money and haven't sent a budget request yet. But if you have any questions about it, please feel free to contact me. I do want to point out that we have 4 Canvas mini courses for professional development that are available for educators across the state. They are linked in our NESIS system. And once educators complete them, they're self-paced. They take about an hour each. They automatically get credit applied to their transcript for digital learning competency credit. So please feel free to share these courses. The Canvas course design basics is the latest one that was released in February that really kind of walks through how to think about designing a Canvas course. It's very helpful, especially if your school or district doesn't provide a template to start with, because we love Canvas, but Canvas can be a blank canvas when you start a course. So the Canvas course design basics is a really nice kind of introduction to help ground some of those expectations of what I should be putting in a course first. But feel free, you can go through these courses as well. If you're new to Canvas and would like a refresher, the course registration links are there for you as well. The courses will go down on May 30th. And I'm going to take the month of June to update them with anything that Canvas has changed, any new screenshots or anything. And then I'm going to re-release them on July 1 for the next year. Right? So that way they will be open for the following year. All right, so I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Lauren, and she can introduce herself and, of course, the Canvas team that's here, and they're going to share with us some updates. So, Lauren, let me make you presenter.
Awesome. Thank you, Pam.
No problem.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lauren Barris. I'm one of the customer success managers at Canvas who works with North Carolina. Ashley Bruff and Erin Hull are also on here. You're going to see them a lot in the chat and on Padlet helping out with answering questions. I know we've got some barking dogs in the background, so I'll be the one to introduce them so we don't have to hear a beautiful howl. But I'll go ahead and share my screen with you. Actually, give me 1 second because I want to move it over so that I'm actually looking at the camera while I'm talking to you, so you don't have to see my profile the whole time. Sorry, I just have to move. I don't think you also want to see the texts that have come in this morning. All right. Now, Pam, can you just give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen okay? Awesome, thank you. So for the updates today, to move the video things here. We have a couple of things. We're going to be talking a lot about what came out in March. March was a pretty busy year, or I'm sorry, an exciting month of updates. But before that, I want to talk about end of year best practices. I did see some questions in the Padlet about this. So I'm happy to spend a few minutes on this, but I did link in the presentation to a blog post in our community that a fellow CSM put together. It has a lot of information in there. It has resources to what teachers should do with their courses at the end of the year, what you as admins should do with the account at the end of the year. It even has an email template that you can use to send out to teachers. There's some pieces in there. I think it's bolded so you know, but you would customize it to your district's needs and dates. But essentially the email template that you can share with teachers will also link to other guides in the community to help them pack up their classroom so they know what to do with their content and whatnot. So it's a really great post that I highly recommend you check out. You can, even if you don't want to use the template as is, you're welcome to take, copy it, tweak it how you want. At least, the goal is that you never have to recreate the wheel. A couple of things that are not going to be mentioned in that post because it's not necessarily relevant for every district, but is relevant for all of you in North Carolina, is that CIS rollover form, which, Canvas rollover form that I saw some questions in the Padlet about. So I just want to take a minute to talk about that. You should have received an email from our CIS team asking what dates you would like to pause your sync from Canvas to from PowerSchool to Canvas. And I do want to be very clear that this is a one-way pause. It's just going to pause the sync of new information from PowerSchool coming into Canvas. If you're utilizing grade passback, it does not impact your ability to pass grades back to PowerSchool. It also does not impact your access to Canvas. Everything is still accessible. What it's doing is it is stopping new users and enrollments from coming into Canvas. And the reason that we do this is because if next year's data comes in while this school year is still going, it can delete content, it can delete users, it can hard conclude, it gets really, really messy. So that's why this is an annual thing. I know some of you, this is your first year with Canvas. Congratulations on making it a full year. What a tough year to jump on board. But this is something that happens every year in the spring. We ask, the pause dates that you would like. And what this does is it tells our team when to pause that sync of users and enrollments coming into Canvas. So typically we recommend that some like to wait until grades are completely done. Others do it beforehand. And that's fine. You can do either of those. Just make sure that you've connected with your PowerSchool coordinator to make sure that none of the PowerSchool information for next year comes in before that date. The other important piece of that form is that you're telling us when to resume the sync. So you may have noticed that it said, if you don't fill out the form, we will automatically pause your sync on June 4th. An important thing to note is we will not automatically start your sync because we don't want to have things conclude. We don't want to guess wrong on the date. So if you want courses and enrollments in Canvas for next school year, you've got to fill out that form. And we, sometimes you forget and you reach out and say, I forgot, can we turn on the sync? We do our best to accommodate, but once we hit our busy season of June, July, and August, it's kind of a first come, first serve. And so definitely fill out the form because then you'll get your sync resumed when you need it. Some things to consider with that is when are teachers going to be working in Canvas again? When do you want them to have access? When should they be seeing courses for next year? What's the teacher work days right before school starts where they're there, the students are there, but the teachers are there. That's an important thing to keep in mind. I did notice in the Padlet someone asking, how do you get school year or the dates added to the course names? So, like 2021, 2022 for the next school year. That's something that you would add in the form. You would just make a note. There's a spot for comments where you'd say, please add the school year for next year to our course names. And it's really helpful if you just give an example of how you want the naming convention. Also, if you want to change how you provision data, one-to-one versus one-to-many, which I will talk about in a minute. All of that you make note of in the form. The last thing I want to mention about this form is that after you filled it out, you'll get a confirmation email. And if you would need to make any adjustments to your response or you need to ask anything, just respond to that confirmation email directly because it's actually kind of made a ticket, kind of like a support ticket, but so our CIS team can be working directly in there, tracking everything really easily. So that's how you would communicate any changes or questions and things like that. I did see something come in through the chat. Do we already have the form? You should, but if you didn't receive it, please email us, North Carolina K-12 at instructure.com, and we can send it to you. I believe also I put it right here. So it's also linked here. in the survey in the slide deck directly. One thing, because I did see this in the Padlet, was about access. If you don't want students or teachers to see courses before, by a certain date, so this is my sandbox. I'm here at the root account level in the settings. There is an option here, restrict, let's see, here it is. Oh, restrict students from accessing courses before the start date. If you don't want your students to see courses before the course start date, then you'll need to enable that setting. And just a reminder, you do want to come down and update settings. The other question was with teachers. So for this, on your terms page, and this is something that you would do once next year's school data comes in, because you need the terms. And I apologize, I really don't have that many terms. But by default, it will be set. Mine is not, I've adjusted mine, but by default, when your terms come in, it's going to say that teachers can access from whenever to whenever. So you will have to go in, you can just edit here with the pencil when you want teachers to have access. I wish that there was an easy way to just set it for all, but you do have to go one by one into each term, unless you know how to do API calls. You could update it for all terms at once with an API call. But if you are not familiar with API calls, you would go one by one into the term and adjust the teacher access date to be what you would like. There's a lot of information all at once. I do know that. So please put any questions or anything like that directly in the chat. Ashley and Aaron can help clarify anything. Or if you want to set up a call with us to talk through this, just email us and we're happy to set up a time to go through the end of year process with you. So I'm not going to go into presentation mode just yet because elementary enhancements, I did also see questions about this. But one of the big things that happened in March is our elementary enhancement became available. It is a beta feature, so it's still in progress. It's still being worked on. There is a webinar that our product manager, Jody Saylor, did to show this. And like I said, it's a beta feature. So in the webinar, it's showing you the full scope of the feature. That being said, you're not going to have access to the full scope of it right now. You're going to be getting it as it comes. There aren't guides about the elementary enhancements yet, again, because it's a beta feature. But that being said, there is a beta user group where they are posting resources. You also can message and ask questions directly to the product managers. And Jody really wants questions about elementary enhancements to be directed there because they also really want your feedback as the end user of what this experience is like. So it's a closed group, but you can request access to join. They're updating. Yesterday they posted an update on where they're at with the project. So I really, really recommend that you join that group and also that you watch the recorded webinar. And then if you want this user interface enabled, you reach out to us and we can enable it for you. But I'm just going to show you briefly. The webinar is absolutely a much better way to see a whole overview of what this looks like and the experience, but I just wanted you to see on here kind of how it looks. So I do have it enabled in just one of my sub accounts. Right now, it is something that we are recommending you create a test sub account and use dummy data to be playing around with. You don't want to turn this on live while folks are in there in Canvas actively using it. But these courses here, none of them are published, but you can see I have art, English, history, homeroom, math, music, PE, and science. Rebecca, I can never say this last name, Berardi is the teacher. This is, before I show it to you, I'm going to give you a little bit of background. This was created specifically to meet the needs of the elementary teachers. Some of you may be familiar with this, but Canvas and the way that courses come in the elementary world hasn't been, frankly, very fun, because an elementary teacher is teaching all of these topics, but they just have one class. However, they come in separately from PowerSchool. So then the teacher has a lot of different course tiles, and they've got a cross list. They need to pick one to be the homeroom course. It can get kind of messy. So this was, again, designed to help make the experience a lot easier on those elementary teachers. As we continue to use it, the team is always going to be looking for feedback and rolling it out to larger grades or larger scale of grades. A lot of folks have said, I really like this for middle and high school, and you're welcome to use it in middle and high school. But there might be pieces of it that you think maybe aren't quite right for middle and high. And so you can provide that feedback in that user group. And as we continue moving forward with this design, you may see that coming. So with the elementary enhancement, so I'm actually going to come in as Rebecca and act as her. And this is what it looks like. So this is the elementary enhancement. You can see I have as the teacher, everything that I teach is right in. Well, also, because this is dummy data, Rebecca's also a student in music theory. So you'll also see that there, but she is the teacher. These unpublished courses are the ones that she's the teacher for. But everything that she is enrolled in is right in here. This is also going to be the case for the students. Everything that they are enrolled in is right here. But instead of it being courses, they're going to see subjects. And the homeroom is where they're going to have announcements. They can come to their schedule. And I'm actually going to stop acting as her and show you what it looks like from the student view. And you notice that there was a homeroom. We do recommend that you have a homeroom course that you enable as the homeroom. Essentially what that does, I'll come into the homeroom. Once a course is enabled as the homeroom, you'll notice that the course navigation menu gets a lot more condensed. And that's because this is really just the space where you're going to be having announcements, but then you would manage the rest of your courses directly just as you normally would. But I'm going to show you the student perspective. So once this elementary enhancement is enabled, and it would be for none of them have been published, of course. I did that wrong. I'm so sorry. Let me publish these real quick. But once it has been enabled in your sub account, students are going to see this for all of their courses. So I'll just publish a couple of them just for the sake of time. I do apologize. I'm going to publish 2 of them so that you can see what it looks like. And again, the webinar, this is a very high level overview. The webinar goes into great detail. And again, it also shows you the full scope of the project. So you'll be able to see what the end result is going to be. So I have a couple of those published, but Annie, as a student, logs into Canvas. She sees her dashboard here. She can look at her schedule to see what's going on. She can still access the modules. The home page is where any announcements are going to be made. So it's a really great, like I said, a really great response for the elementary data and how that comes in from PowerSchool. Now, that being said, if you do want this feature if you do want to be using this next year, your data needs to be coming over from PowerSchool in a one-to-one format. So I'll explain that a little bit. And I know in an email we sent out yesterday, we linked to a guide that explains the difference between one-to-one and one-to-many. Ashley or Aaron, if one of you could please also put that in the chat, that would be really helpful. But essentially, if your data is coming one-to-one from PowerSchool, that means that if I'm an English teacher and I teach 5 sections of English, I'm going to have 5 course tiles on my Canvas dashboard. And then if I want to, I can cross-list them so that I just have the one course card and can access all of my sections from within there. If you're provisioning your data one-to-many, using that same example of being an English teacher with 5 sections, I just have one course card on my dashboard and all of my sections are already put in there. The reason it needs to be one-to-one at this time to be using elementary enhancement is, again, because it is designed to accommodate, because in elementary, that's what happens. Even, they have those different sections as different course cards. And this is a way to help them. So right now, the best way to have this feature working is to have your data coming one-to-one. I believe a lot of you are doing one-to-many. So that's something to consider. If you do want to be using this, you've got to make a request on that provisioning survey, or I'm sorry, the rollover survey, to have your data provisioning changed, because we will only make that change in the summer. Again, if you want to meet with us to discuss the pros and cons of that, the implications of it, let us know. We are happy to talk through that, because that is another big thing that you would kind of want to work through and think through. We do have other things, so I'm not going to spend any more time on this, but again, highly recommend joining that user group and watching that recorded webinar, and let us know if you have any questions. It's something that we'd have to enable as your CSMs, so reach out to us to make the request and we can do that for you. Some of the releases that came out in March, well, all of them that we're going to go over here. Excuse me. One is the ability to upload images directly from the submission portion of an assignment. So if you remember, students used to have to take a picture, upload it to Canvas, and then submit it to an assignment. Now, when they're submitting an assignment, there is an option. They see this button here, use webcam. So if they're on a mobile device, they can just take a picture. Perhaps it's a worksheet or something. They can take a picture of that and upload it directly. So that is less clicks, which is always, I like to say, get your kicks with less clicks. I don't know. It's just a thing. The other thing that came here is course availability date enhancements. So in the course settings, there is now, by default, it will show the participation will be the term. So this is the default. This is what we recommend. And what this means is that students can participate based on the term dates brought over from PowerSchool. Sometimes you need to extend the date of a specific course. Let's say you have an entire course where the students need more time to submit work beyond the term end date. So you can actually adjust the course start and end dates, and those will stick or override the term dates. So within those rare situations, which, I definitely, you as admins need to be aware that this is a thing. I don't necessarily recommend that you broadcast this out to teachers, because you usually want them working within the term dates because of the gradebook in PowerSchool or PowerTeacher Pro, apologies. But if you do need to change the course, you want to change those course dates, you would just change the participation menu to be course, and then the teacher could set whatever dates they needed. Again, by default, it's going to be term participation, but there is the option to make it more granular if needed. Another thing that came is part of our new quizzes, getting closer to that feature parity with classic quizzes. This is a small thing, but also for some a really big win. But new quizzes can be created as part of adding a quiz to a module. So again, a small thing, but a big win for some. You can just select here which type of quiz you would like to add. Another update that's coming is with the Learning Mastery Gradebook. So our product team who oversees this piece of Canvas is working really hard to try to make this more granular and very beneficial. It's not going to be, for those of you who also use Mastery Connect, which is our assessment management tool. Learning Mastery Gradebook will never give you as much information as Mastery Connect. So for those of you who are using Mastery Connect, I always recommend that you just continue using that. But for those of you who are not, and you're using the Learning Mastery Gradebook, there are improvements coming with this. So a few more filters came out. More is coming throughout the summer to make this, to provide you more insight. But you're able to show inactive enrollments concluded and students who are unassessed. So a little bit more visibility there so that you don't have to go one by one. You can actually just view the participants as a whole. This is something, permissions granularity, this came out probably back in January, I think is the first time that this came out, but we had more of them come out in March. Basically, on your permissions page, certain permissions will have this drop-down menu, like you can see this one is collapsed, but I could expand it if I were live. But if you see this arrow, these are permissions that you can get more granular in. So for observers, you can expand it and you can get granular in saying who can add observers to a course and who can remove observers. And you could say, in this example, teachers, student TAs, graders, and designers have that ability, but just a regular TA and a student cannot. I do not know why you would want to, I won't get into it. And designers, you can see here, add designers to a course, things like that, you can get more granular. So it just allows you to have a little bit more control and more customization in what users can and cannot do in Canvas. There's more than just these three, so definitely view that full description to see all of the different permissions that have this, or visit your permissions page directly and you can see them. Another thing that came out is with the rich content editor. If you remember, the new rich content editor was rolled out in January. There is now an option to preview either as an overlay or you can do inline preview. So small thing, but allows for a little bit more options really in how you're using the content editor and things that are familiar from the old version. This one is, I think, very exciting. Still, a month later, I still think it is very exciting. The submission reassignment. So if a student submits an assignment and maybe they didn't complete it all, maybe they submitted the wrong thing, or maybe they submitted their parents' tax returns. That happened. You have the ability as, or teachers have the ability to actually request that students resubmit work. When they go in to SpeedGrader, they can add a comment. As you can see here, I need you to finish the paper before I can give you a grade, and then reassign the assignment. This then puts the assignment in their, on their like to-do list, so they don't forget to turn it in, but they also can see the notes. So they know why it's appearing. They don't just think, I turned that in, something's wrong. They actually know why it's showing up again. And this is also helpful, you know, for parents, because perhaps students were just submitting stuff just so they didn't have any homework showing. But now their parents can see, oh no, you need to actually submit the assignment. This is an update. They just posted it on a blog post on Friday, but I know some of you have been watching closely our Microsoft integration. So it's going live this summer. This blog post is phenomenal, in my opinion, because it has specific dates of when things will be available. It has action items for you to take right now to be able to use these integrations. You do not need to be strictly a Microsoft district to be using this. If you have a mix, you can absolutely be participating in this. But one big thing that is mentioned in this blog post is in the month of May, there's a form that you fill out to connect with Microsoft just to make sure that you have the right licenses set up so that you're ready to start playing with this in the summer. You also, in the blog post, it links to some training. There's going to be some training resources available. They're not currently up. Microsoft is going to post them on June 1st, but you have the link to access them on Microsoft's website directly from within this blog post. So starting on June 1st, there's going to be training material. They know that this is a quick turnaround. Summer is busy, and it's always nicer to have the finished product now so that in the summer you can be leading PD, and they are aware of that, so they know that this is a quick turnaround. So they're going to have those training resources available. So again, if you have Microsoft users in your district, I highly recommend that you, or even if you don't, it's always good, I think, to be aware of what the options are. But check out that blog post. Do the necessary action items now that you need to do so that you can be ready to play around and do trainings this summer. The last thing on the Canvas side is wanted to open it up for these next few minutes to discuss Studio. I know that that is something that I think it was in February maybe, where we had a demo. Thomas Toronto came and did a demo. There were a couple of sessions where he showed you what Studio was like, answered some questions. We were able to hear some experiences from others. I did put a link to that recording in here so that you, if you missed it or you want to view it again, you can. Also some links about Studio. But I wanted to open up just for a moment to see if there were any questions or things about Studio that we wanted to discuss, because I know that that's been something that a lot of you have been looking into. And if there aren't questions, that's okay too. I just wanted to provide an opportunity. I'm not seeing anything coming in through the chat. No one's unmuted themselves.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
So let's say we did get Canvas Studio, but we're not like a district where everybody has to use Canvas, at least not yet. That may become a thing in a year, may not. Things change and go back and forth. But I remember it's okay to not use it strictly within Canvas. Like Google Classroom users could use it too. Would it be able to be posted, a link to it directly, like in ClassLink, so that people who want to use just that without going through Canvas to use it could go directly to Canvas Studio, use it in also Google Classroom, their other platform they're allowed to use?
Yeah, we will have to double check on that. I imagine that you can, because I know that Studio can be used as a standalone product, just more oftenly used with Canvas.
I suspect then if it could be a standalone, it would be able to, because I know like Mastery Connect, we'd be able to put that in.
Yeah,
so that's a separate as well. So
yeah,
if we
I'm
end up
fairly
going with
positive.
Case 21, we're going to post that separately as well. So
yeah, I'm fairly positive that you could, because it can be a standalone, product. And that would just be something during, like, if you purchase Studio during your implementation, that we would work through with the project consultant of getting the right link and whatnot, so that you could put it in ClassLink.
okay.
Great question, though. Are there any other questions about Studio or anything that you want to discuss specifically about that feature?
Lauren, just wanted to check if you do place it in ClassLink or another learning management system such as Google Classroom, would you still have access to insights for those videos?
No. No, you wouldn't.
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to check.
Yeah, good question. Because those insights are a big piece of it. It's kind of similar, like you have the option, when you create a video, to make it like, as the teacher, when I post a video for my class, I have the option for them to download, like so that the students could download it. But if a student downloads the video, I lose any insights for viewing that they've done once it's been downloaded. So kind of similar in that regard. Okay. Any other questions before we move on to our next piece? Okay. Well, I know a lot's been going on in the chat, so I'm sure Ashley and Aaron have been taking care of you, but I will go ahead and stop sharing and give the control back to Pam. And you are welcome to continue posting questions on the Padlet or in the chat. We're going to be here the whole time so we can answer additional questions.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you to the team. I am going to pause for a second and just take us back to our Padlet before we jump into breakout rooms, just to see if there's any burning topics there. So let me, I have to make myself presenter again. So just to know, while I'm doing this, I'm curious, how many emails did you get from me inviting you to this meeting from Webex? And I'm hoping the answer is 1, but I had to do it multiple times and Webex changed the user interface. So I apologize if you got more than 1 email invite.
I only got one email.
Okay. That's awesome to know because there was no message letting me know. It just came up with an error. And so I did it again and again until it worked. So I was wondering and hoping I hadn't flooded anyone's inbox. All right, so let me try to share my screen now. And so we're going to take a few minutes to go into breakouts. And before we do, I just want to look at our Padlet. So if you haven't been there in a minute,
Pam?
Yes.
Pam, I'm going to have to drop out. I have to go fix an iReady issue. I'm so sorry. Okay, thank you.
You're fine.
Thank you.
You're fine. We understand, and these meetings are recorded, so you can catch back up later. All right, so we do have a couple of people that were asking kind of about cleanup. So I added a third breakout session that we can talk about. So in just a moment, when you go to breakout rooms, you're going to have your choice of whether you would like to talk about things I wish I knew before the pandemic, because I do feel like it's important to give us a space to reflect, because we have done a lot of crazy things this year. As Casey and Dave have shared, you know, when the pandemic hit, we all went into overdrive and it hasn't stopped since. And so we really wanted to give you all a space to kind of share some of the things you did, some of the things that you hope to see that will continue to support you moving forward, because you know, hopefully we're getting closer to the end of the pandemic, but we're still certainly in it, and we still certainly have unfortunately people still being affected by it. So we'd love to give you that space. We're going to be in breakouts for 20 minutes. Another room is going to be about summer school. And this is a time for you to share what your district or school is currently thinking about summer school and how you're going to operate it, if it's going to be in Canvas, what kinds of things you've thought about so far. Keep in mind the last half hour, we're going to be going through some specifics about how it would work in Canvas technically. So I'd like this discussion during breakout rooms to stay kind of more, you know, sharing of strategies and what you're thinking right now. And I'll be in that room. And then the third room is going to be summer cleanup. We saw a few of you posting on the Padlet about how do I clean up my terms? How do I change from one to one? So we thought it would be a good space to have a third room, and we have about 80 people or so on here anyway. So it would be good to have more than two rooms to split us all up. So how it's going to work is I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And at the bottom of your WebEx, you should have a breakout session. And so when I open them in just a minute, you will be able to click on breakout sessions, and there should be 3 options. And it might also pop up on your right side of your tab. It just popped up for me. So there's summer cleanup, things I wish I knew, using Canvas for summer school. And if you have a question, or are unable to move to a breakout room, feel free to put it in the chat. And sure, I can go ahead and I think I can add a 4th one. I see Brandy's request here. So Canvas for new. Let's see. Hold on, I have to end them. Then I can add another one. All right. All right, now. All right, so now you have 4. So new Canvas admins, summer cleanup, things I wish I knew before the pandemic, or using Canvas for summer school. And we will be in them until about 11:20-ish, so about 15 minutes for you to share. You should be able to join them now on the right side of your screen, or if you put it in the chat, and I can put you in there. Again, if you don't see the breakout sessions, if you could put in chat which one you want to go to, and I can manually move you over. Okay. All right. Again, I'm moving people as fast as I can. So just put it in the chat if you can't see breakouts. All right. All right, so Amy, Ava, Beth, Cheryl, Corey, Emily, Aaron, Ginger, anything you all want to go to? Aaron, there's summer cleanup and summer school. Which one do you want? Summer school. Okay. Amy, summer cleanup. Okay, Ava, summer cleanup. Ginger, summer cleanup.
Hey Pam, I didn't see anybody in the things I wish I knew group, so I can go somewhere else.
Yeah, can you go to the new Canvas admin group?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Marty. All right, Samantha. Summer school. Okay, Corey, you, Tyler. Campus admins. Okay, last call because I need to jump into the summer school room. So if you need me to help you move to a room, please put in chat. Otherwise, I'm going to the summer school room and I will move all of you with me. All right, going once, going twice. All right, we should be all coming back together now. A few seconds here. Before we go into a little bit more information, is there anything that anyone would like to share out from their breakout room? We know that probably wasn't quite enough time, but hopefully you had a few minutes to ask a few burning questions that were on your chest. So would anyone like to share from their breakout room?
Hey, how are you? Hello?
Good.
Hey,
Yes. Hey,
one
Marty.
of the things that we're really we really want fixed is the naming convention, and when a teacher leaves the class stays in Canvas, and we don't have to cross this back into it to save their grades and assignments and all that kind of stuff. And we can't do that at a local level. I would hope that the state could help us with talking to either Power School or Canvas and making them talk together so that we can get that piece fixed.
Yeah, I know that is an issue that you have to have constant communication right now with your data managers whenever they're moving somebody as a teacher. I know Don shared his little request form that he uses, but I agree. We should see if we can get in a room with Power School and see if we can fix what's going on or have a better understanding of why it's happening technically. So I'll be happy to take that back, Marty, as a action step.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Pam, I have a
Yes.
question.
Sure.
Is it possible to not remove users when they're turned off in Power School, that they're just not removed? It's very hard to find. You get over 200,000 courses now to find somebody's content because they've left and gone and we didn't catch it and no one communicated with us. Is there a way that users just are not removed so data stays there? Because we've had accounts just deleted and then a teacher gets transferred to another school, they get added back in, and now they have no connection to anything they had before.
Okay. So, Ginger, are you saying your users are not deleted? They just
Yeah, it was a few years ago, and we were having the same problem. Teacher was moving schools. First school would make them inactive. Everything would disappear in Canvas. It would take a couple days for the new school to put them in. I don't remember what was done. It was I want to think a setting with our Power School plugin. But on the flip side, I still have student users from like 2017. So it's a lesser of the two evils. So then I just go in and clean up. I'll wait a couple years where a student would graduate, and then I'll run a SIS import override to clear out any inactive users.
okay. So, Gordon, it sounds like maybe it's something we can investigate between a setting with between Power School and Canvas and how they're looking at the data that comes in. So could you send me an email and we'll follow up with that and kind of see where we can go forward? That would be great, Gordon.
I know it has something to do with not being active in a school, because I had my Canvas account deleted a few weeks ago, and because I had them to change some stuff because I was trying to do some Discovery Sync stuff, and I was still active in 2 schools as a teacher. And when the data manager took me out of those, then the next day I was completely gone.
Yeah, so it sounds like, when you do a import, you can check it to override. And so it'll clear out anybody who's no longer in that file. And it sounds like something to do with that. So we can definitely look into that. Was there anything else in the breakout rooms? I do want to give Cynthia a couple of minutes to share about an opportunity that she has. But was there anything else in the breakout rooms? All right, Cynthia, if you want to unmute, we are ready to hear about your opportunity for us.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I am sharing about an opportunity that we have for using the NC Wazelle EBSCO resources from within Canvas. We have already had help from Ron in Durham, and he's given us feedback, but we'd like to get just a few other folks to look at what has been put together before it's rolled out this summer for you to use. We are going to have NC Wazelle moving to resources such as Canvas, and then also inside NC Ed Cloud and other ways that you authenticate in your school districts to make use so much easier for our students and teachers. What I am needing a volunteer, maybe a teacher paired with you as administrator to set up it's a course actually that you would disseminate out into your district. We have directions for that. The course is out in the NC Canvas Commons, and you would just set that up and have a teacher look at this and just give us feedback and help us find anything that we've missed that might be helpful to have in the instructions, or just maybe other general feedback before we roll it to the state. So if you would like to be a part of that and be able to give feedback and also have access to this before the summer, so you'll have a leg up, I would appreciate if you would let me know. And probably the easiest way to do that, if you want to tell me now, or in the chat, I'm going to put my contact information. And I know that it really sounds vague right now. Of course, I will be a part and be there to help as much as you need. But if you would like to do that, we would appreciate it. And again, I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and you can just contact me directly. And of course, I can take questions now, a general question if you have one. Right, Pam, it seems like there's no questions, so I will give it back to you. Thanks so much for the opportunity to ask for volunteers.
Absolutely, Cynthia. And, we love the resources that are available in NC Wazelle, and the idea of being able to have those easier to access in Canvas is great. And so we appreciate your work with that and anything we can do to support it. So, all right, I have a few slides of resources here for summer school. And so if you are interested in that opportunity with NC Wazelle and helping with Canvas, please make sure email Cynthia, and she will be in touch with more information. I do have a few slides of information for summer school that I want to go over, and then we're going to stop for a second to let anybody off the call who wants to stop, and then we'll continue on with the demo. All right, so first of all, we do have a new division at DPI. And that division is for our Office of Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration. And this division is in charge of our summer learning programs. So if you have questions about what counts, and, your administrators are like, what are all the requirements and what do I need to do? And can I offer, an enrichment class virtually, or, any of those kinds of questions, please go to the Office of Learning, Recovery, and Acceleration. Their email addresses are on their page. They also have a guidance document with frequently asked questions that they put out, and that they're continuing to add to it because we know this is a very quick turnaround in planning for summer school and what the legislative requirements are for Session Law 2021-7. And so they also are having an office hour this afternoon from 2 to 3 o'clock where you can jump in and ask any questions about summer school. So just wanted to share that information with you all in case you're not familiar with it or haven't heard it yet. I wanted you to make sure you had that information there. Lauren put in this great slide here about, normally we have that interaction and that sync every night between Power School and Canvas. However, in the summer, we won't have this. So that means we can still use Canvas. That's good, right? There is a backup process where you go through a CSV spreadsheet, which we can all collectively go together. But we have, Lauren has shared some great resources here to make it more manageable. And then Jake, are you still on the call?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Would you mind giving a 30-second plug of what you designed for us and shared with us so graciously?
It's just the headers for the CSV file. You can see it in the Canvas documentation, how you need to format a courses import or an enrollments import. It just puts those headers in, and there's even help text explaining what that particular column needs. If it's a SysID or whatever, it's just the documentation in a spreadsheet form, so it's quicker to configure.
And Jake, we are really appreciative of your work with that. It does have, when you open the sheet and you make a copy of it, it will ask you to enable, it asked me to enable the script, and depending on your Google admin settings, you might have to get approval for that. But you should be able to, I was able to authorize it without an issue, but just to let you know. And I appreciate Jake's work because our NCDPI instance is a manual import instance. So I have to format CSVs all the time. And it's a small thing, but it's something that can save time. So we really are appreciative of Jake for sharing that. So there's a couple of links here to the Canvas guides on this slide for how do we format. And if you use Jake's, it's already formatted. And then there's a help guide here for how do you import. And with the step-by-step directions. I also have, I wanted to point out a couple of reports that might be helpful to you in this process. So first of all, to get all your information, you can do a sys export on the back end of Canvas under reports. And I'll show you this in a minute if you want to stay for the demo. But then there's also a grade export report where you can pull final grades by term. So for summer school, I do recommend creating a new term for summer school if you are using Canvas. So that way at the end of summer school, you'll be able to pull this grade export file for the summer school term. So based on what CMS put together for us, thank you, Jake, I put a sample Google Sheets file together with a term, one course for each of the grade level requirements from that session law 2021-7, enrollments and accounts. Now, I was not able to do much with enrollments and accounts. You'll see the spreadsheets are there, but they're pretty empty because all that information is pretty specific to your instance. So it wouldn't be something I could format an example to show you, but we will look at each one of these together from the next 25 minutes if you want to stay. If you don't want to stay, I do want to go ahead and put the link to our evaluation and survey in the chat. So if you are not using Canvas for summer school, you've already got a plan, and you are free to take our survey. And this will also give you the link for your CEU certificate. And we appreciate your time today. So we're going to take a 30-second pause. And if you want to stay, you can stay. And if not, we will see you in July for our next home-based meetup. So. Anyone have any questions while we wait just another second before we get started?
Hey Pam, I don't know if this matters, but when I was at SchoolNet Tuesday and then Canvas today, that feedback form has April for NESIS, but the rest of them have February. You probably know that, but I just wanted to share that.
Okay, thank you. We'll check it. And yes, there will be a recording of the session and we will send it out. We'll put it in our Canvas group. And then I'll also make sure to, it'll also go in the weekly SIS message that goes on Friday afternoons. All right, last call. All right, we're going to go through. So I have a test account for a test instance. I do highly encourage you before we get started that if you are new to the CSV import process, that you please make sure you do this in your beta instance. So that way you're, not messing with real data until you're more comfortable with the process. But hopefully it shouldn't be too bad. So I'm going to start with just clicking on my Google Sheets file and making a copy of this document. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of directions. The first two steps are what Jake shared with us from CMS. I added a third step here, which is kind of a little disclaimer that unfortunately I wish I could create something that you could just make a few quick changes to and go. But it's really going to need to be customized based on what your district is doing with summer school and how many instances or sites for summer school you're running and how many terms you're doing. So I know some districts are like breaking it up because we have that distinction in the session law of whether you're doing so many days or so many hours. So you're going to need to know all this information before you kind of get started with the CSV. You're going to need to know, okay, what are my start and end dates? You're going to need to know how many sites you're doing, probably for each grade band, right? So do I have 5 elementary schools? Do I have 5 middle schools, 5 high schools? Is everybody offering it? Just so that way you know in the spreadsheet how many things to duplicate and watch. So if you don't have that information yet, I encourage you to watch what I'm going to show, but then keep in mind you're going to need to go get that information from whoever is planning summer learning in your district. At the bottom of the spreadsheet, you see 4 tabs. So these are the tabs I'm going to talk about today. We're going to talk about terms, which is really easy because there's only one. We're going to talk about accounts. We're going to talk about courses. And then we're going to talk about enrollments. And just one disclaimer, this is not how you have to do anything. Okay, this is not coming from DPI saying this is how you must set up your Canvas instance. This is Pam trying to say, wow, this is a lot. How can I help? Right? So this is just an example of how it could look. Please take this, improve upon it, share with others, give me feedback, because this is just me trying to help provide some guidance, okay? Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm logged in here, and I did want to show those 2 reports. So I'm going to actually do a SIS export real quick, so that way I have a lot of the information that I'll need for these spreadsheets if I need it. So to do a SIS export, you go log into your instance. And can everyone still see my screen okay? Because I moved away from the presentation. Yep. Okay, great. We're going to go down to settings. And we're going to go to reports. And so you can see this is that grade export report. So I can configure this. And you see that term there because I've already loaded that. This will be what I can run at the end of summer school to get a final grade report for every student in every course that was under that term of summer school. But then the report I'm going to run right now is a sys export. So I'm going to configure that. And I'm going to go ahead and just run for users. And then if you check this box down here that says created by sys, you will only get the users that were created by your PowerSchool sys import, right? So you won't get your local users, which could help clean up your file a little bit for data. You click on Run Report. And it says its report is running. You'll get an email when it's done. This is all, I should have mentioned before, this is all a test instance, so any data that's in here is fictitious, so I'm showing on the screen. So you can also refresh the page depending on the size of your instance. It may take a little bit of time to go and run this report. There we go. Mine is, since it's a test instance, I don't have a lot of users. Any questions so far about the reports? Okay. So I'm going to go back to my copy of my sample, and the first thing to talk about is terms. So we have a term ID, which is normally generated by PowerSchool, but when we are, importing it by creating it ourselves, I just put 1, 2, 3, 4. And certainly put something else in there, your LEA code or something like that. The name that you want to appear. So I chose NC Summer School. The status. So that's one column that on all of these reports is real important that you have the status be active. If you don't have the status active, then when it imports, it won't show. So on all of these spreadsheets, you'll see there's a status column and it has to be active. And then my start dates and my end dates. So I just picked some dates based on when most school calendars end. You will know your dates because that's that information to gather beforehand. In thinking about multiple terms, like if you're going to do, maybe you are going to do a summer session 1 and a summer session 2, you might want to split it up and have 2 terms because that way, okay, so there's advantages, disadvantages, right? So if you split it up into 2 terms, then you're going to have to get that final grade report twice, and you'll have 2 sets. So I don't know if there's advantages or disadvantages to that. Jake, are you going to do 1 term or are you going to do multiple?
We're doing 3 different terms. We got the whole summer school and then a first half and second half.
Yeah, and that might make sense, because you might have some students like, if you're doing a Read to Achieve and they might be in there the whole time. And then, you might have high schoolers that are doing one or the other kind of.
Pam, can you hover like next to the status, that little triangle in the top right corner of that cell? It tells you whether it's required or optional, and then what you need to write. Okay, like this, you have 2 options for status when it comes to terms, active or deleted. That's the only acceptable value for that column.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm going to just go ahead and make another one here. So I'm going to say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to call this NC summer school term 2 and active. And maybe this one, notice the date too. Jake in his help text gives you the exact date that things have to be formatted. So you have to format it in that order in order for the import to work, right? So I have to put 2021. Maybe this one's going to start on July 5th. And have the same end date. Okay. So once you have your terms, we're going to go up here to File, and we're going to download as, and we have to do a CSV because that's our import format. And so we have our copy. Now we go back over to our account. We come over here to where it says Sys Import, and we're going to choose a file. And so we're going to choose that file that I just downloaded. And we're going to process the data. Now, obviously, you know, this was a real simple file, only had 2 rows of information in it, so it'll take just a second. When you are importing larger things, it's going to take a little bit longer of time. You can leave the page and go back and start working on the next thing. While I'm waiting for this, one thing I noted from trial and error. This unique identifier, right? Term ID. This column, if for some reason I'm like, I don't want to call it Summer School 2021, maybe I want to call it, you know, Summer School and the site name. Maybe I want to put the site name in my term for whatever reason. I will need to make a new term with a new unique identifier in order for this file to import. If I just change the name here and try to re-import it, it's going to skip that row because I already have a term with that ID number. So that's just a thing to kind of troubleshoot if you make changes to your CSV and then are like, why didn't the changes work? Well, if it's in that term ID, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same with course ID as well, as a unique identifier that once you use it once in your instance, you would need to change it to a different. All right, let's look and make sure our terms are there. So I'm going to go to my terms. All right, so I see Summer School 2021. Do I see? Let me go into my Sys import. Okay. Maybe I'm trying to ask my computer to do too much right now. But let me go into my term for Summer School 2021. And you can see that this was auto-populated from when I did this the first time. And it has my courses. And now if I go up to courses and I filter by term, I can see what I imported in last time. And so let's go over into accounts and I'll just explain. So your account, you have sub-accounts. And if you wanted to create separate sub-accounts for summer school, which is probably the best idea for your data provisioning and also making sure of secure access, because you may have administrators at different schools for summer than at your normal school sites. So I would consider going in and making, you know, your account ID numbers, which is again that unique identifier that you know, you put in number, letters, whatever kind of naming convention you want to put up with, and then the name, and then the parent account. So Jake, are you making a sub account for summer school and then making sub accounts underneath that for each. So like a sub account. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
I'm doing that exactly.
Okay.
The first one, you just
Right.
that summer school sub account, you just leave the parent account ID blank,
Right.
and it'll put it in the root. Yep.
Right. So if I put here 1, 2, 3, 4, and then now I will put 1, 2, 3, 4, and summer school, you know, site. Right. And so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, you know, the nice thing is you can kind of drag this down. And then you're active. Right. So for the sake of time, I'm just going to do 2. And so integration ID, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5. Okay. All right. Again, when we're done, we download as a CSV. And is it going to not like me because I forgot to put the account ID in, probably.
Hey, Pam, while you're working on that, can you explain the difference? I've always struggled with this, the integration ID. In most of the sys imports and using the headers and things like that, I've never done anything in that column whatsoever.
So I think unless I've also left them blank before and been okay, I think it has to do with PowerSchool, right? So PowerSchool, if you wanted it to match, then you would need to go into that import file that we exported first for the sys ID, and we want to make sure the integration ID, if we wanted to match it into, you know, what was already coming in from PowerSchool. That's my understanding. Jake, is that what you understand too, or do you give more?
That's exactly. I never use it because
right because it's I think it's only for if you want to make sure you match it into what comes into PowerSchool, which in this case we don't really care about, right?
I got you. Thanks.
Okay, so you follow the same import process. So is everyone okay? For the sake of time, I go to the next tab rather than showing the import, the CSV. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. So courses. So what I've done here is I've come up with a sample based on what is required for session law 2021 section 7. So what I've done is, you know, we all have to have in K2, you have to have math and reading. In 3.8, you have to have math, reading, and science. So what I've done is I've created a course for each one of those. Where I put the X's is just coming up with a naming convention. I was thinking maybe you would put your LEA code there on the end. So that way you have a common naming convention. Of course, if you want to come up with something different for your district, that's fine, but I would encourage you to think about a naming convention for the courses. And then you notice I put a 1 on the end because I know you might have 2 teachers teaching kindergarten math, right, for summer school. So what you could do is if I just come up here and insert a row ahead, right, and then I take this information here and just drag it down, then you're only having to come in here and change. Okay, so this is section 2. All this is the same, except it did mess up my dates. put the next date on there. So now I have 2 sections when I import this file for kindergarten math, right? Here's where you're going to need to pull in your account ID, right? So if we went in and set up accounts, right? So we would come in here with that account ID or whichever sites we have for our sub accounts, and we'd put that in here. So that way I would know that this course lives in that sub account. And then for our term ID, I already put what I had for summer school to live in that summer. This course lives in that summer school term. And you would change it to whatever you put your term ID. Questions? So in thinking about this sample file, right? So if I'm like Jake and he probably has what, 75 summer school sites?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So in thinking about this with the sample file, I'm not sure which way it would be easier to, to take this one file and import it, get it right? Like change each part that needs customization for one summer school site and then import it 75 times, which is making the changes to those, each one of those sites. Or if it would make sense to have one long spreadsheet and import it in just by duplicating the rows that you need, which is going to be different because everyone has different setup. So I put in here the K. I also put in a course for physical activity. I know that's a requirement for our K-8 students that they have 30 minutes of physical activity day. So I put a course in for it. But if you're just going to have one of the teachers, okay, the math teacher is going to make sure they have 30 minutes of physical activity, then you can delete that row out. I did want to point out that I put a course in there for you for physical activity if you were planning on having a separate course for that, or if you're just going to blend it in as an access or whatever.
In the rare cases in our situation where an elementary is using Canvas, they just usually use the homeroom and then put all the subjects in there. So would it be okay in my situation if I had this route, which I don't think elementary's going to, I don't even have to do that. My brain is spinning on where I'm going to go with this, but
yeah, you could definitely just have one course, right?
Just,
like you could,
just say 5th grade and the person's and the person's name. I'm almost feeling like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to get a form out to schools of saying, if you want a Canvas course created.
Yeah, and that might be another way. I just wanted to try to think about, there's a lot of ways it could be handled. You could just do one course. And I do know we're at 12 o'clock, so if anyone needs to jump out, I understand that. Please let me know if this was helpful. Hopefully it at least kind of gives a starting point. I am hoping to have some office hours next week to help with anything with import process and how this looks. Of course, I also put enrichment in here for both elementary and middle, and then elective for high school course as well.
Idea.
Yeah.
What if we had schools fill out a form with the things that we want in a format and then auto credit into this?
Yeah, you might would. My only concern is about losing those headers, because the advantage of this spreadsheet is that the headers are already in there, right? So the headers are already in there. Jake's already formatted them for us. So my only
and Pam, I've done not with summer school, but with our virtual summer school. So I've done exactly what Dave is talking about, where I created a form for our virtual ISS director to send to data managers that have like I create the I'll tell Kelly that this is the naming convention we're going to use for our courses, and then we'll make sure that the headers won't say this. I have a separate sheet that I just copy and paste into.
Okay. Did you import range? Did you do like an import range to a different tab, or because you could probably do that too?
You probably could, and that's probably beyond my skill set with sheets, and so I do a lot of copying and pasting. But that is help for our virtual summer school, but that's only been maybe creating 30, 40 total courses, so it's nothing huge. Right. So, it'd be interesting to see how that works with a larger summer school piece. But anyway, that's just to kind of help Dave with that as well.
So that's not the worst idea, is have it go to the data managers and have them filled out with the naming conventions, and then come to me. And cut and paste is perfectly fine with me because I'm no Pam with AutoCrat, but Amy's still over there for a few more months and maybe she can do it. But I'm not super. I know I can get it to work with help from friends around here, but I'm not natively great with AutoCrat.
Right. Yeah, and so just keep in mind too, I know from another conversation in Power School yesterday in the home base meetup, a lot of data managers are 10-month employees. So just keep that in mind too with, they might be able to help, but they may not be able to help for as long as you need it. Because I'm sure just like anything else, summer school is going to be kind of fluid with enrollment and.
With summer school, they're going to have them be 12 months this year, contract-wise or something, wouldn't they? Oh my God. Are ours 12?
Most of them are not.
I don't know. Oh,
so
they have to be. For this, at least this year, but good God, I would think all the time.
Right. Well, it's just something to think about. So I will go ahead and put the link again for the evaluation, and please let me know if office hours to help you when you get further down the road would be helpful for this. I'll be happy to help. But there's the evaluation link, and
wow, that just scared me. All right.
Sorry to be the bearer of bad news.
Think of that. Oh wow. Okay.
But thank you for this, and let me know too if you think like a little tutorial video of this section would be helpful. I'll be happy to work on putting something together the next week or so if you guys think that would be helpful to kind of summarize this beast.
It probably would be.
All right, Carrick, it's the last question today. Google Cloud speed grader errors.
Sorry, it's happening to everyone, and I'm on the Facebook Canvas group, and everyone, it's happening. I mean, I guess across the country. I don't know, but it's the
the
Google
Facebook
Cloud.
group is across the country. So I'm sure Canvas is aware and is probably, I'll probably all be getting the emails soon.
I'm afraid to click over to my email right now.
Okay, I felt obligated to ask. Well, I had a bunch of experts in the room.
Right.
So. All right.
So, usually when you see things like that, it probably is a global issue and something that's affecting everybody. So,